Onkun is doing his research work in the Nicolaus Copernicus Astronomical Center in Warsaw, Poland. For the last 2 years, this is his third year of research. Onkun decided to take us in a journey of gravitational wave, how it all started, how the scientists collected the data, how difficult it is to work in this particular field of physics, and finally, he will delve us into his own research work where he is working with continuous gravitational waves emitted by isolated neutron stars called pulsars.
What I really wanted to talk about today is the discovery of gravitational waves and why it is considered as one of the greatest discoveries of this century, and how it has the potential to help us understand our universe much better than we have ever known. Now, when an electric charge accelerates, the electric and the magnetic field it produces starts propagating away as a wave. If you recall the wave equation, this simply implies that the right-hand side, where the speed of this potential or speed of gravity enters is infinite, and that makes the right-hand side 0. So which means that gravity acts instantaneously. How matter affects the curvature of space-time, and how the curvature of space-time is affected by the presence of matter and energy. He came up with the design of the gravitational wave detector LIGO as we know it today. What happens that if a gravitational wave passes, it actually squeezes the space-time around it. And what happens is that the length of the two arms of the detector change, and this makes the waves to interfere, showing the classical interference pattern. Two black holes merged with each other to produce one single big black hole, and this process emitted ripples in space-time, just like the waves on the surface of a pond. They traveled through space when humans didn't exist on the planet Earth. But fortunately, they reached our nearest star when we were able to just solve Einstein equations and predict the existence of gravitational waves in supercomputers, and you come up with a shape of the waveform. So this signal is usually embedded in a noisy data, and from which you have to extract the original signal. Looking at the frequency time plot, this frequency is the rate at which the stars orbit around each other. So neutron stars are one of the most fascinating of astrophysical objects, which are the strongest magnets in our universe. So these are roughly masses of 1.4 times the mass of our sun, and it's the size, for example, it's the size of the city of Kolkata. So these are objects created by the death of massive stars, which are 10 times the mass of our sun. For black holes is that there is matter, and matter could produce light, and we could see from the left animation. So the event occurred in a galaxy called NGC 4993. Events are responsible for elements like gold. So it is interesting that all the gold that you see in Earth had been produced by the mergers of two neutron stars billions of years ago. Two well-established experiments from the Planck satellite, which uses the cosmic microwave background radiation anisotropies to measure the Hubble constants, the burst gravitational wave, and these are produced by deaths of massive stars which explode as supernova. You could see that what are the possible galaxies, because this gravitational event is coming from certain region in the sky, and what are the how many galaxies could be present in that volume. The higher the completeness fraction, the better is our measurement. So what you are seeing here is the probability. So higher the completeness fraction, the higher the probability is. So compact that their shape remains perfectly spherical. But there could be situations when the star could form deformations. So these are called neutron star mountains. The gravitational waves are only emitted when the magnetic moment axis of the neutron star is misaligned with the spin axis.
Your mean is getting shifted from when you are going to the 100% completeness. Why are you expecting this? The mean is shifting towards left. I mean, it is getting skewed from the normal.
So actually, the thing is that these so when we combined, there were certain systematic effects. I mean, I don't know how to explain to you, but there are effects such as, because there is already some uncertainties in the measurement of the, let's say, the velocities of the galaxies. So that systematics could actually give you a lot of error, and then the mean could shift. So we actually could, like since these were tested on simulated data, we were exactly not sure why it was shifting, but we believe that it was due to the underlying systematics, like the electromagnetic effects, which comes in terms of the velocities of the galaxies. Because it also has to do with the amount of, like, because we already simulate this information, and there could be some errors while we simulate this information. Okay. So that could give rise to, because there are, if you're, then a lot of information is getting combined, then it could give to a large error.
Or distant future, these gravitational wave observatories, all these LIGO activities or LIGO activities, will it be, or there is a chance to get linked with the unified field theory, like linking with other things, the other means the electro weak is experimentally confirmed, but what happens on the unified theory being proposed?
So
just your idea.
The thing is that as far as I know, so if we talk in terms of unified field theory, if you talk in terms of string theory, I don't think that LIGO will be able to do anything or verify the things of string theory. But what you can think of is that LIGO will be able to, of course, study general relativity at its extremum. So at regions where it breaks down, so very close to black holes, so people are trying to study these general breakdown of GR effects close to black holes. And I think those could give you a hint of what is the underlying quantum gravity theory that is playing a role over there. So that could give you some insights into unification with the other forces of nature.
Very good. Good idea. So be very optimistic. Thank you.
Yes.
Carry on. Carry on.
I am very thrilled, and I was like, it's like amazing platform for me to discuss with these young fellows. Of course, my colleagues, and thank you, Shubhankar sir, for also the question. It's like amazing to talk to you guys, and Shubhapriya and Anindya, keep up the good work. I mean, I think Researcher on Web will be a very successful organization at some point of time. It is already successful, and I wish you all the best. I mean, now we are like students. At some point, there will be Nobel laureates maybe speaking at your program. So it's like amazing. Thanks for this opportunity.
So that's what we try to do here at Researcher on Web. We try to bring forth the real research, the groundbreaking research out, not just to that specific field, but to every scientific field out there, and not just to them, but to every person interested in science and research.